Here I am again, searching for where the little green light is. All right, hi there. um, I want to tell you about the pilgrimage that I'm creating, and the fact of the situation is that I have been trying to create this for a very long time. And I keep running into the ways that I think that it should be, and that I then feel like I have to grow more or I have to heal more of my personal grievances. And today today is another day where I could have said, there's too much going on. I should really, do this other healing thing or taking care of this or that. And I have decided that I'm not waiting anymore. So this will be a series in which I'm explaining about the pilgrimage. It's now called A Lovely Path, and it did used to be called Eco Pilgrimage, for good reason, but there was just a lot of logistics connected to that, and I intuitively went with a simpler name. My brain likes to organize things so that they can be big, but the reality of my life that I keep being shown is just start small. So today is another testament to that. Start with what there is. So my name is Joan, if you might not know that before, and I live in the Netherlands. I live off a government grant. The reason that the government gives me a grant is that I am visually impaired, and along with that are some complications with my eyes, like sensitivities to light, and yeah, some other things. And yeah, my eyesight is changing a bit, and that's another story. But so I basically live with a kind of like a minimal amount of pocket money, which of course it's a Western standard, so that's maybe quite abundant compared to other countries around the world, or other countries where there is no such grant. But yeah, for Dutch standards, it's very little, and I see my physical life as one where I'm always struggling to make ends meet, for many reasons, possibly, maybe, but also because my body is very sensitive, and I can't live in the way that society says that's average living. Then my body will get ill very fast. I've tried it out of spite. And there's some history with trauma that I also talk about, but that is not the premise of this series. But I'm kind of sketching for you the situation so that I don't know, so that I later don't have to explain all of that. And I think it's nice to have a kind of story time and not me flooding you with like lots of information that then you might wonder, who is telling this story? So, hi. I was born in West Africa. My mother is Polynesian. She is Samoan, Chinese, so and English speaking. And my parents divorced when I was very young, and I grew up with one sibling, and later my father remarried, and I have African family as well. That is, yeah, that are like we have a multicultural family for already more than 30 years. So I'm 43, very, very grown up. But yeah, I know I come across as very young sometimes. So it's good to have that context. And yeah, I moved from West Africa to East Africa, and in between, when my father is Dutch. He's a Dutch citizen and also by ancestry Dutch and German and Frisian, which is one of the big kind of separate languages and ancestry in the Netherlands. And I have lived in the Netherlands after moving through different African cultures. Mainly where I lived was first Guinea-Bissau in West Africa, where I was born, then Uganda, Sudan, and those were for just 1, 2, or 3 years. And in between, I was in the Netherlands as a child. Obviously, I was very young. And then I lived in Kenya for 7 years, and half of my family is from Kenya. And so since 98, about thereabouts, we had I lived in Jamaica with my family for 1 more year. My family lived there a little longer. I spent part of one of my school years when I was 15. I spent that alone in Kenya. It was boarding school that I went to because that's like to have a high quality education in many African countries, especially if you don't live in a city, then it's automatically that you go to boarding school. I didn't know anyone that was homeschooled at the time. And yeah, so I came after that to Jamaica, and then I've been living in the Netherlands for such a long time. Yeah, it's 2025 now, so what is that? Like 27 years? Yeah. Yeah, continuing the story a little bit, because that's got to do with how the pilgrimage started. I had a very difficult time feeling at home in the Netherlands. I went to Dutch school. I had to learn Dutch again, just like the rest of my family, and eventually went to art academy. And I remember that it was 10 years that I had lived in the Netherlands that I finally felt like I was getting over the depression of living in the Netherlands. It has never yet felt like home, but with this pilgrimage that I'm doing, there's a lot there. There's a lot of bonding going on between me and the landscape through the stories that I'm discovering, that I will tell you about. So yeah, I went to art academy, and then after these 10 years and realizing that I had been depressed actually for 10 years, I realized that the difference between where I had grown up in these African countries and cultures. And the Netherlands was the complete absence of a nature that is boss. Here in the Netherlands, every square meter is someone's has dibs on it. Someone's proclaiming what it should be used for. There's so much control over every little bit of landscape. Compare that to Africa. It's like, well, as soon as a human you're not like implementing all of these tools and doing stuff with it, nature just comes back in and takes over. So there's really a sense of the natural way of things compared to the human way of things. And my own the way that I experienced it sensually or spiritually, I think even, or philosophically, it was kind of like when I was in Africa, that I am part of this nature, and everything that is not nature still has to relate to nature. And nature just keeps like slapping things out of your hands, you know, or slapping you in the face when you're not doing something that is in accordance to nature. I don't know how to say that, but now the way that I say it, maybe it sounds negative, but when I got to the Netherlands, I actually missed that so much, because also through maybe the traumatic things that I've experienced, I don't trust humans that much. And especially because all the times that I had been in the Netherlands, I felt like people were fake compared to in Africa. In the African cultures where I was, there was a lot more care for children. And when I got to the Netherlands, and also like all the adults, kind of the way that adults take care of children is like not only your parents take care of you when you're a child in those cultures, at least not me, because when my mother had left, there was always nannies like from the local culture that were taking care of me. But also just generally, I felt like people, especially women, were taking care of any child. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you come from, a child is a child. But when I got to the Netherlands, it was like people were telling my dad, rein your children in, make your child behave, and and also like giving a side eye, me and my brother at the time, it was like, and when they would speak, it just felt so it just didn't feel very caring. Like there was judgments everywhere, and like I felt like, because I had moved to so many different cultures, I was very used to maybe catching nuances of how I'm expected to behave. But with the Western cultures, and of course I only knew the Dutch one at that time, it was very clear to me that there are rules, but no one says what the rules are. And when I find out what the rules are, I find out that no one also really knows what they are, but as long as you do as everyone else, then that's best. And you might not make people angry, but the people are just judgmental anyways all the time. So there's like not really much, there isn't like, you can't really get out of the tension. Like there's not a place where people just start enjoying. Like in Africa, it was really like, We have some things to sort out, but you know, when that's out of the way, everyone's just enjoying life. That's how it kind of felt to me. I might be, it might not have been always like that, but that's how I really remember it. Like there wasn't so much stress like in the Netherlands. Here, it just felt like the pressure comes in and it never stops. Never stops. I remember my breathing, that I could tell how everyone was holding their breath. And I was just using my breath to regulate myself. And I was really used to that. Like I was also used to all the space in Africa. And then I remember that for months, I would just be being just me, and then people would be always commenting, like just strangers, like commenting at me about my breath, not about the smell, but commenting like that I was sighing, and that, you know, there were things that sayings about sighing, like, oh, there must be something wrong, or sighing means that you're letting go of a whole load. Oh, you must be loaded with pressure, or, and I just kept feeling like, yeah, all of you people are the whole time so pressured. Just please leave me alone. You're pressuring me. Like, don't you see? Doesn't anyone see how everything's like kind of fake? Not really, fake isn't the right word, but like, doesn't anyone see that everyone's just trying to do as they're told without anyone saying what they're supposed to be doing? So it just came across on me like programming. Now it's easy to say like programming, but yeah, when I was like 15, 16, 17, it was very strong in me that this is this whole society is like keeping each other in line, you know, like everyone's watching each other even though they don't show it, and telling each other to be a certain way. All right, so this is a whole thing. I'm not even talking about the pilgrimage yet. But yeah, I was deeply unhappy. And when the 10-year mark was there, I realized that that art academy and the idea that everything can be created, that's probably the way to survive a totally manufactured society. It just occurred to me that a person has to be quite aware that if you don't create your own reality in this place, someone else is going to create it for you, and it's going to be so subtle and implicit in everything. It's like a fish that doesn't realize it's in water. So that it will be hard to even discern what your character is. So this is very strong for me, also today. I feel like I've been programmed a lot now, and that I have a hard time even discerning. But that's the way it is. So we try. That's why I put tattoos with henna on my arms, to remember what I'm programming myself with, to remember that I have the freedom in my mind. But it takes some physical attributes in order to remember that. So now I come with the story. Yeah, I went to a drumming event. It was the theater drumming, but then there were 3 women who were drumming on frame drums. So it's like with the hands, and like a moon-shaped kind of drum, like that big. And I expected that to be quite boring because when I remember from Africa that if you go to something spiritual, like a traditional something with elders, is going to be boring because you got to sit there for really long and you have to be respectful. And sometimes you can feel like what's going on, but you have to be very aware of what the feelings and the story. And of course, when I was in these African cultures, I didn't understand the language because I'm visually impaired. I don't see what's going on really. So it's just a whole lot of sitting around. um, and it was really intuitive that I had to go there to that drumming theater. And yes, it was boring, but it also touched me. And I felt a little bit like, oh, these women are doing something with the indigenousness. That's also like they were explaining that. But most of it was about experiencing. And then I realized that I would like to drum and experience more of that. But because I didn't really have the money, I said to the universe, yeah, I actually really want to experience this, but I don't want to pay for it. I want someone to teach me for free. And I want it to mean something. I want to do something with that. Like it's gotta elevate me to somewhere new. And that's how it happened. Afterwards, I dropped my email address, and the lady who was actually teaching drumming, that was leading this theater, she called me a month later and said, yeah, I don't know if you remember me, but I saw you at this drumming event that I did, and I want to invite you to learn to play the drum. I'm going to teach you for free. And you do have to get a drum. That's the only prerequisite, as I remember. And the reason why I'm inviting you is because there are these indigenous grandmothers from all over the world, and they're going to come to the Netherlands. And we want to create a drumming ceremony to welcome them onto Dutch land. And And I, of course, was like, hello, universe. Oh, I know that magic works this way. I definitely remember from when I lived in Africa, sometimes you just have a feeling for something like, there's some magic sparkling around here, and I'm going to jump in this river because it's going to take me somewhere good. So I was super happy. Yeah, she said it's not really about knowing the technique very well. Please do learn the technique, but it's just really about energy. It's got to be the right people, the right energy. I was like, of course I know what that is, even though nobody in the Netherlands had ever talked to me about that. I just felt like, yeah, that's who I am. That's my background. I'm from Africa. This is like, should be my language, and not this like mental construct that I'm now living in. So I was pretty amused. And so for a few months we practiced, and I met a few other women, and this was the first time that I was in connection with other people who were apparently doing something with spirituality. I think I didn't realize at the time. I just thought, yeah, this is how that works. And I think I was the only one who had never been to anything spiritual. So yeah, anyway, that's fine. There were some funny details in that I was just living by a very different code. And that I only realized later that everybody had kind of learned stuff in books or through other people teaching them, and I was just like, no, this is normal. I know this. So eventually, yeah, we went to this gathering, and it was called The Gathering for 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. Their bond has been disbanded because one or maybe even two or three of the grandmothers have passed away by now, and they had like one mission to come together to speak on topics of connecting cultures, connecting people to the earth back again. And at the gathering, there were mostly elderly women, like I think the average age was 60, and pensioned white women. Yeah, I think that was like 95% were like above 60, white women, Dutch. So they did like cleansing of the space and cleansing the people, and I prepared myself for another very boring 2 days. But I was very surprised, like, that I'm in this company of all of these Dutch people that are so interested in these indigenous grandmothers, because, you know, like, my father was working in development aid, and it would be ceremonial that he had to always make sure that he knows how to address elders the right way and to sit through their ceremonies, that when they are showing respect to him. And we always had jokes about all the things that he had to live through and accept. Some of them were very, this just like for example with the Maasai, it's to drink a mixture of sour milk and blood that has been kept for like 2 or 3 months in a calabash in the heat. So or to eat a goat head in some other culture, or so. but always it goes with like a long sitting, because all the names have to be said of who everybody is there. And I really wasn't very much in it, but I was just, you know, a child from this kind of background. So for me, it was like, okay, here we go. And so surprising to see so many white people, white women that were like really interested. I was like, I think I kind of went with the flow. I was like, oh, something's really interesting. We're gonna, like, in the back of my mind is like saying, no, Joan, this is just, you know, regular old this. Like, but because everyone was so excited, I was also really excited. Yeah, we did our ceremony. It was very beautiful. And in the first, I think it was the first evening, I had a very uncomfortable experience. It wasn't all the indigenous grandmothers, so there were just a few, and we were honoring them, and they were seated at the head of the gathering. And on one of the evenings, all of these women suddenly came, and they all dressed up, and they all were wearing feathers, and a lot of people were wearing indigenous American Indian leather clothing, which for me it was very shocking, I have to say. And then they also brought all drums and rattles, and I was just very shocked, because when I was living in Africa, I have also just experienced, it might be logical for you, but I'll just say it to make sure, that the places where I was living, there was colonialism before. And because of that history, that was not very long ago, there are all the remnants of colonialism still there, even the way that people are living, the way that people speak to white people. And it was something to live with and to deal with, and also feel a lot of discomfort, and when are you going to do something about it, and when are you just going to leave it, and all of these kind of things. But definitely a very strong like a abuse of power that has only just ended from white people to indigenous people. Later I did learn that actually development aid is a kind of modern colonialism, so sorry, I didn't know that at the time. But now I was in this spiritual gathering, and all of these women were wearing indigenous clothes, you know, while they are totally white, you know, with their short white hair and glasses, and like the way that they were beating the drum, I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt so afraid, like for our souls. It was like my throat was closed, and I was totally in shock, and I felt very out of place, and I was angry, and I didn't know how to process that. So I can say it now, but at the time I did nothing. I was just shocked, stunned, stupefied. So I don't really know what else to say about that. That's just how I felt. And there were also very beautiful things done there at that gathering, but the point that really ignited my pilgrimage was when there was being a forum held on the second day, and one or a few women started asking the grandmothers that none of the grandmothers were European. There was one from Sami, so Norwegian, indigenous Sami, but she wasn't part of the official 13 grandmothers. But there was a question from someone in the crowd: how do we find our roots? And the just very clear answer from the grandmothers was: don't search too far away for your own roots. And so this really grabbed me, not like because there was something new or something about it, but it just made me feel like, having been in that space and that experience, and that being my first spiritual gathering, it ignited something in me that was like, I have to do something, because everything feels so wrong. And that's just my way of sometimes dealing with things, and then something gets created and I have to go do that. So the end of the weekend, the end of the gathering, I asked my drum mom, I call her so, my drum mom. I asked her, what is a local spirituality actually that is known? And she said, well, there's this goddess, and her name is Nehalenia. And someone wanted to say all these things about her, and I just kind of tried to filter it out, because there's a lot of like mind play, word chaos that I felt like I gotta stay away from. And someone said her temple, there is a temple for her in Zeeland, which is Dutch for Sealand, but that's actually, the whole province is called Zeeland. And I was so happy. I said, don't tell me anymore. I'm going to walk to that place, because it just felt like, girl, you gotta walk. You just gotta walk. Don't let anyone tell you anything. Grounding here in a spiritual life, you know, like I just felt like this is what I need to do. This is how this works for me. I am going to walk to that place. And that's how this whole adventure started. Yeah. So there was the birth of the idea, thanks to this very strange gathering. And very happy to have been there drumming. Since then, I also have drums, and sometimes, I don't know, do I ever wear indigenous clothing? No, I don't think so. No, I'm very careful with that. I really do prefer to just wear something creative, or, you know, and if I do wear something indigenous, it's because someone gifted it to me, or I don't know, maybe I haven't really paid attention to those things. It could really be. But I try to, you know, to be a little bit normal, so that I'm not creating an identity. But like I'm saying, you know, things can still be happening in a way that I might later disagree with myself. So it's just my way of saying I'm totally fallible. And I know now that to be super judgmental is also not gonna get me anywhere. It's more interesting to see if there can be a process. So, like the walk. All right, I'm gonna leave it there for now. And thank you for watching this, and see you in the next one as the adventure continues. Bye.